Hello, Durud and Shalom. All right, guys, make sure you like the stream. I saw this article by Al Jazeera, and I thought I should just respond to it with you guys here because it's unbelievable how much anti-Israeli media is now is basically spending a lot of their resources, also attacking Reza Pahlavi, which actually is a good indication to Israelis out there. By the way, guys, when you start showing up here in the live, let me know how the audio is, and also make sure that you tell me that you have already liked the stream. So, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting how anti-Israelis are now using a lot of their energy to fight Pahlavi, but I need to respond to all of these anti-Pahlavi lies that people are spreading around the internet. But it's a good indication to Israelis out there that Pahlavi is good for Israel. I mean, it's not a coincidence that all the people who spend their time attacking Israel are now the same people who are attacking Pahlavi. This is a good way for you to recognize as an Israeli that Reza Pahlavi is your guy because he's pissing off all the right people. Yeah, Sean is saying, ooh, we're horizontal. Yes, yes. I'm going to do both. I'm going to keep switching between vertical and horizontal, right? By the way, guys, how do you like this new format where your comments is just showing up on the screen? All of them are showing up. Is that a good thing? Yes, let me see. Shana is saying, always recognize who they are attacking. Yep, yep. But also recognize. I really want to repeat this one more time. Israelis should recognize how good of an ally Reza Pahlavi is, given that anti-Israelis are attacking him, right? Which shows that he's in line with you guys. Like, it's a good ally to have. So to go through this article, I have speechified it, which means that instead of listening to me, we could just listen to AI read this out for us. Hold on, let me see if there's a way for me to make it so that it's not blocking. It's okay, we could just listen to it. So let's just listen to Speechify, use AI to read the article for us, and then we'll respond to it.
Hours before a ceasefire took effect between Israel and Iran on June.
You can hear this, right? You can hear the audio very clearly?
Hours before a ceasefire took effect between Israel and Iran on June 24. The son of Iran's last Shah, Reza Pahlavi, held a televised news conference in the French capital, Paris. Dressed in a gray suit and blue tie with his hair combed back, the 64-year-old exiled crown prince of the monarchy that Iranians overthrew in 1979 urged the United States not to give Iran's government.
Hold on, did you see that, guys? Look at that. It says, dressed in a gray suit and blue tie with his hair combed back, the 64-year-old exiled and self-styled crown prince. Self-styled crown prince? What does that mean? What does self-styled means? Like, hold on. Does that mean that he's not a crown prince? Using this title one has given to oneself. I mean, he is the crown prince. He's not. That's not self-styled. He's the son of the king, which makes him a prince, and he's the heir to the throne, so that makes him a crown prince. Yeah, this is like exactly Flying Robot Duck is saying they already are giving away at the very beginning of the article that they are biased. Like self-styled crown prince. He is the crown prince. He is the prince. So how is that self-styled? He is like, he didn't. In fact, if anything, Reza Pahlavi, Reza Pahlavi always tries to say that you don't have to call me the crown prince if you don't want to. Like, he just says you could call me whatever you want. I don't know. This seems already biased, but let's go.
Government a lifeline by restarting diplomatic talks on its nuclear program. Recommended stories. List of 3 items. List one
Go
of
away.
three. Iran list
Go, go,
travel
go, go,
list is
go,
the
go.
12-day is end of list.
Yeah.
Pahlavi insisted that Iran's Islamic Republic was collapsing. This is our Berlin Wall moment, he said, calling for ordinary Iranians to seize the opportunity afforded by Israel's war and take to the streets, and for defections from the military and security forces. But the mass protests Pahlavi encouraged never materialized. Instead, many Iranians, including those opposed to the government, rallied around the flag in a moment of attack by a foreign force.
Okay, so that's bullshit. First of all, many Iranians, including those opposed to the government, where are you getting the number? Where's the many coming from? I mean, many Iranians were extremely happy that Israel was attacking. Many Iranians were cheering. I mean, if you say many Iranians rallied around the flag, many is a number that could just be thrown around. Like as soon as I get above 100, then I could just use the word many, because give me the numbers, give me the percentages. I have seen many Iranians celebrating that Israel is attacking the Islamic Republic, and yep, there are also some people that had the rally around the flag effect. How are how are you just lose? How do you know which one was higher? How do you know what percentage they are? Many Iranians became hopeful that maybe the regime is going to collapse. If you're going to use the many like that, I could also is what I'm saying is true. Also, many Iranians were very disappointed that there was a ceasefire, that they wanted the war to continue because they saw that the regime is going to collapse any moment. And also, saying that, oh, Iranian people were supposed to come into the streets and they didn't. I mean, that is such a bullshit thing to say, because the Iranian people were, I mean, it was war, and the regime brought all of its security forces into the streets, and they were monitoring everything, and there were security officers everywhere. I mean, the very fact that the regime cut the internet and also brought all of its security forces into the streets and had checkpoints everywhere shows that Reza Pahlavi was right to say that, right to suggest that people want to rise up. I mean, this shows that the Islamic Republic agrees that Reza Pahlavi is touching on something that has a potential of happening, or else they wouldn't be shutting down the internet and bringing all their security and all their checkpoints into the streets. The reason why you don't see a rise up is because even though Islamic Republic is very weak when it comes to responding to Israel, they're still pretty able in shutting down the people. Like, oh, the people didn't come to protest. It wasn't for the lack of wanting. The Iranians didn't come out to protest not because they didn't want to, it's because they couldn't. Let me see. We have 2 super chats in the chat. Shauna is saying, I always find it fascinating how much he looks like his dad too. Yes, especially the nose. Thank you, Shauna, for the super chat. Troll is saying, Armin, see Article 38 of Iran's 1906 constitution. I mean, I can't do it right now. Maybe can you send it to me somewhere else? But right now I can't do it in the middle of this stream. But thank you for the super chat. Says the thing, who has most to lose if Reza succeeds? Qatar, what is this? Muslim Brotherhood? Who has most to lose? The entire axis of resistance. The entirety of the axis of resistance. I think Qatar, the most it would be Hezbollah, Hamas, basically terrorists in the region. But yeah, thank you for the super chat, Seth. I appreciate that. But this article is so biased. Like, you don't have the numbers. I mean, how do you even know many? Where's your source? Look, including those who oppose the government rallied around the flag in a moment of attack by foreign force. Where's your stats on this? How do you know there were many? How did you where's the link to your source for this information? I mean, by the way, the regime also had some people brought. It's very unfair where the people, like, you're talking about Iran. When anybody that says comes out with the narrative that suits the regime, they would be free to speak their mind, and anybody with the narrative that goes against what the regime wants to hear will not be able to freely express themselves. So you citing a couple of stories by some Iranians as a way to try to paint a picture for us that, oh, Iranians went in the direction of the regime because of these attacks is absolutely fucking bullshit. And we know the regime tries to find stories like that and amplify them, and then you're basically doing the regime's propaganda for them. This is absolutely disgusting, biased. This is not even journalism. This is a propaganda piece. And you know, there were thousands and thousands of videos, messages, comments all over social media. The internet was flooded with Iranians praising Israel and hoping that Israel is going to come and finish the job. And you ignore all of that, and you just basically zoom on a couple of stories of some people saying like, "Oh, I was opposed to the regime yesterday, but today I'm going to go and defend the regime." Like, oh yeah, there are many people. Like, even if you want to report on that, how could you be so biased and not report the other side of the tens of thousands of comments and videos and messages of Iranians celebrating Israel? Why wouldn't you even comment on that? Like, are you going to mention that? Absolutely disgusting.
It appears that Pahlavi, who said in his Paris speech that he was ready to replace Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and lead Iranians down a road of peace and democratic transition, had misread the room.
What do you mean has been? He is the most popular politician according to every scientific poll. What do you have to support your, like, you're not even giving us any polls. Every single poll shows that Reza Pahlavi has the highest amount of support among the Iranians. Every single scientifically collected data. What do you have to support your claim? I don't understand where you're even getting this from. Like, this is a propaganda piece, obviously. Also, he didn't even say that. I mean, I've seen those speeches. He never said, like, guys, this is so obviously a lie, because Reza Pahlavi never said that he's ready to replace the supreme leader. He never said that, because Reza Pahlavi has always said whoever the leader is going to be after the regime falls has to be chosen by the people. And he said that, like, he has said that hasn't been determined, that who's going to be the leader. The only part that Reza Pahlavi has has announced that he is ready to lead is the revolution part and the transition part, not the part of leading the future government in Iran. He's leading the Iranian. He has always insisted that a democratic process will determine that by the Iranian people. He has never said that he's going to come and replace the supreme leader. In fact, he has always said the opposite, that the Iranian people will decide who will replace the supreme leader. So this is a lie. I mean, I have watched his speeches, so this is an absolute lie. So given how biased and how the misinformation that is being spread here and like the stuff, like, I know you're talking about a mass wave against the Pahlavi because of his support for Israel with no source, and then you don't even get his speech right. No, we got another super chat. Let me highlight this one. Thank you guys for the super chat. I'll read the super chats as they come. Kurt is saying, do you think Iran is trying to not Iran, the Islamic Republic. It's not Iran, it's the Islamic Republic. Iran and the Islamic Republic are two separate things. You know what? I should have a video ready for that. But thank you for the super chat. But I'm always going to continue to be nitpicky about this. In fact, now that I will respond to your super chat, but let me be nitpicky about this for a second, because there was a video on Instagram that I just sent Sarah. By the way, Sarah sent me this article. So thank you, Sarah, if you see this in the future. But let me show you a really good video regarding why you shouldn't be using the word Iran for the Islamic Republic, and why this is so important for us Iranians. This is very important for us Iranians, that you stop using the word Iran. Oh, here, I found the video. For the Islamic Republic. Let me download this video and play it for you, because there's this Iranian woman who explains this in such good detail that she does it better than I did. But now that it's downloading, let me actually respond to your super chat saying, do you think the Islamic Republic is trying to flood the world with Muslim refugees via many wars abusing our asylum system? The Islamic Republic. Okay, so I think the direction of causality is the other way around. I think the flooding is not being done it's not happening it's not being organized intentionally, other than maybe Turkey sometimes opening the gate, like threatening that. I don't think the flooding is being done because of somebody is managing it somewhere, but I think they take advantage of it. Okay, so it happens because of some of these wars, and they come into the Western countries, and now that they're there, they say, okay, now let's use that as a political resource, like let's invest in it politically. So I think it happens the other way around. It's not like they cause it. I mean, they do cause it, but not like it's not planned. It just happens, and then they benefit from it, right? Does that make sense? But let me actually really quickly show you guys this video, because it's important regarding the difference between Iran and the Islamic Republic, and why we Iranians are continue to insist that do not use the word Iran for the Islamic Republic. Okay, so because sometimes you might think I'm being nitpicky, but this lady explains it very well. So listen to her for a second.
Please, for the love of truth and sanity, stop saying Iran when you mean the Islamic regime. Okay? I'm gonna make a whole video of where I show you they don't even want to be confused with Iran. They made it very clear they're anti-Iranian. They were not elected, they're not ethnic Iranians, they don't want Iran to flourish, they don't care about Iran, that's not their people, okay? Their people are Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, the other Arab Islamists. That's why they're supporting them for years, because that's their people, that's their nation, or their ummah, or whatever they want to call it. Not Iran, okay? So, one, it's very confusing to us when you do that, when you go out and say, this is pro-Iranian, and we're like, yeah, we're pro-Iranian, right? Like, we want to liberate Iran. And then it's something like terrorizing like people, and we're like, wait, that's not pro-Iranian, that's pro-jihadist, pro-Islamist, pro-Islamic regime. So it's anti-Iranian, because that's exactly what the regime does to Iranians. So please, for the last time, you're not just doing us a favor, you're stopping the propaganda, and you're making sure you don't sound like freaking idiots who can't distinguish terror organizations from nations.
All right. So that was, by the way, that's Ghazaleh Sharmahd. That's her name. Just wanted to make sure I give credit where credit is due. But let's go back to our article. Anyways, that was a good question, though. I know I'm being nitpicky, but thank you for the super chat. So I hope you don't mind me saying that. It's just like, I know to us Iranians it's very annoying, and I know it's hard for other people to understand why, because for other countries, when it's just normal to refer to, when you're referring to the US government, you say US. I mean, you do that with every country, but for us Iranians, because the gap between the Iranian people and the regime is so wide, that for us it's different. For us, we don't like it when we refer to the Islam, because the Islamic Republic is the most anti-Iranian thing in the world. Okay, the Islamic Republic is the most anti-Iranian thing that has ever existed. So to refer to an anti-Iranian entity, to refer to it as Iran, it just pisses us off. Why would people call this anti-Iranian entity Iran? Does that make sense? That's why we get so annoyed when foreigners refer to the regime that is against Iran as Iran itself. Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
While he was willing to align with Israel in achieving what he perceives to be the greater goal of overthrowing the Islamic Republic, the majority of his compatriots were not.
The majority of his citations needed. Al Jazeera, where citations needed, the majority of his compatriots, where are you getting this number? Where show me the study. Every single study ever shows that the vast majority of Iranian people want the regime gone. Every single study shows that. Where are you getting this from? Like, why are you not reporting where this is coming from?
If anything, Pahlavi may have squandered the little support he once had.
The little support, every poll shows that. What do you mean the little support? This is a propaganda piece. How is this a journalism? How are they publishing this as journalism? Every single scientific poll shows that he has the most support. The very little support. What is this piece? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Oh, he may have squandered the. I mean, okay, guys. Anybody who says that Iranian people just turned anti-Israeli because of these recent attack, just this proves how full of crap these people are, because it's coming from the same source that was suggesting that the support Reza Pahlavi originally had in Iran was very little. I mean, obviously, these are biased sources, and they spread this on. These are mainstream media. They're spreading this everywhere, and then people will just believe it, and other people will start quoting them, and then that just becomes the dominant narrative. Just because some mainstream media sources like Al Jazeera this is why Qatar is just poison. Not Qatar, actually, the Qatari government. Hold on. I had this somewhere. Where's the article? Yeah. Let me see. Oh, yeah. I had an article to show that. Let me see. When he says very little support, how do you explain this then here? Look at this. This is saying why young Iranians would welcome the return of the Shah's sons. So this was published in March 2024, saying record low turnout for Friday polls suggests the appetite for fundamental change is growing among it. Yeah. So there was a study here that showed. So this is Reza Pahlavi, and let me see if I could find it. Hold on. This is the article that we're looking at right now. 80. Oh, there we go. Here, look. A recent survey conducted among Iranian citizens by researchers in the United States suggested that 80% of respondents favored the crown prince as the leader of the country. 80%. 80%. And then this is what research shows. And then Al Jazeera here comes and says the very little support. A mere 80% of the country. Wow. Unbelievable. Kurt, thank you for the super chat saying the only solution is resolution. Oh my God. That is beautiful, Kurt. I know. This is great. I love this. The only solution is resolution. That is genius. I hope I remember that. I'm going to steal this from you. This is fantastic. Okay. So let's continue. That is pretty good, SLP. Yes. Dad jokes to the max. Yes, Amir. All right, let's continue.
By choosing not to condemn Israel's heavy bombardment of Iran, which killed more.
Why would he? Okay, so look at the bias here, Al Jazeera. Saying, if anything, Pahlavi may have squandered the little support he once had. Oh, now he does no more support. Okay, sure. By choosing not to condemn Israel's heavy bombardment of Iran. Why would they condemn that? Israel. Why would he condemn Israel's bombardment? First of all, not of Iran, of Islamic Republic. Israel is defending itself against a regime that has promised to annihilate Israel. Why would Reza Pahlavi condemn that? I mean, good on him for not condemning it. And then say which killed more than 935 people. The bombardment didn't kill those people. It was the Islamic Republic that killed those people by putting them in harm's way, by for the past more than 40 years promising to and wanting to annihilate Israel, basically bringing this war upon the Iranian people themselves. And also, one main reason why around 1,000 people died is because even though the regime in Iran has promised that one day they would enter a war with Israel, so this is their doing because they promised this will one day happen. They invested in zero bomb shelters for Iranian people. Zero. Actually, no, not zero. Sorry. One bomb shelter for Khamenei and zero bomb shelters for Iranian people. So who is the murderer of these? Again, Reza Pahlavi went on TV when they asked him, like, so why wouldn't you condemn these bombardments that is killing Iranian people? Reza Pahlavi correctly pointed out that, well, obviously Israel is not targeting these people. Okay, and that's what he said, and that was correct. And it was, guys. By the way, do you understand how brave it is for Reza Pahlavi to say such a thing in such a, because the hate against Israel is right now to its max. So for Reza Pahlavi to come out when they ask him directly, like he could have pivoted away or said something politically that wasn't basically answered that question directly, but Reza Pahlavi directly said. Reza Pahlavi, which most Iranian people love, he came out and says, well, Israel is obviously not targeting these people, which I was very happy. I was very happy to hear him say that. So yeah, very based. And Reza Pahlavi is completely in line with the Iranian people who are actually are friends with Israel. So let's continue.
Than 930. 5 people, including many civilians, said Trita Parsi, an expert on Iran and the author.
Trita Parsi is your source? An expert on Iran? Oh my God, no wonder. Holy shit. That's their source. Trita Parsi. Are there any Iranians here? Trita Parsi is the name of the guy responsible for Nayak. Yes, exactly. No, it's a man. He's the Nayak guy. Yeah, exactly. Holy shit, that's your source? Yes. Okay. So, guys, Trita Parsi is obviously it's the founder of Nayak, which is the illegal lobby of Islamic Republic in the United States. Again, Kaiser is saying Nayakia. Exactly. That's your source. So basically, your source is the Islamic Republic. So Al Jazeera is basically directly quoting the lobby of the Islamic Republic inside the United States. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So no wonder you have such a bullshit take. That's your source of information.
Of treacherous alliance, the secret dealings of Israel. Iran.
I say accidental Nayak misgendering. That's okay. Yes. Hold on.
While he was willing to align with Israel in a.
Wait, hold on. Where were we? If
anything, Pahlavi may have squandered the little support he once had by choosing not to condemn Israel's heavy bombardment of Iran, which killed more than 930. 5 people, including many civilians, said Trita Parsi, an expert on Iran and the author of Treacherous Alliance, the secret dealings of Israel, Iran, and the United States.
Yeah. So Trita Parsi, the source that Al Jazeera is using here, is an anti-Israeli, anti-imperialist West so-called expert. Okay, so a very unbiased source. Like the anti-Israeli analyst is saying that, oh, Reza Pahlavi had very low. The anti-Israeli pro keeping the Islamic Republic alive analyst is telling us that Reza Pahlavi had very little support, and the only support that they had, he has lost them because Iranian people are anti-Israel and Israel is attacking Iran, and now they saw Reza Pahlavi supporting is in line with Israel, and that's why they don't like him anymore. Yeah, sure. That our sources, like very unbiased, credible source, Al Jazeera. Great job, great journalism, fantastic, unbelievable.
He has, in my estimation, destroyed much of the brand name. By going on TV and making excuses for Israel when it was targeting our apartment buildings and killing civilians, he told Al Jazeera.
By the way, Israelis, I know they're trying to do a hit piece against Reza Pahlavi, but I think this is actually coming off as an advertisement for Reza Pahlavi, because I'm always trying to convince Israelis here on this English channel that Reza Pahlavi is the best ally Israel could have in Iran, and that's why more Israelis need to become familiarize themselves with Reza Pahlavi. So Trita Parsi and Al Jazeera here are trying to tell you that, oh, Pahlavi is bad because he is making excuses for Israel. That should actually tell you that, oh, okay, so Reza Pahlavi is our friend. Okay. Oh, by the way, yeah, guys, like the stream. Please like the stream, and also please subscribe. Okay, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you get notified. By the way, guys, were you notified when we went live? Like, did you get the notification? Because hit the bell notification so you get notified. Okay, so let's continue. Oh, what is that?
Pahlavi's office did not respond to requests for comment from Al Jazeera. Generational
Oh yeah, I wonder why. Al Jazeera. Okay.
appeal. The level of support for Pahlavi is disputed, but many experts doubt it is extensive.
I mean, there is not a single poll. Where are you getting this from? Like, cite the poll, because every single poll shows that Reza Pahlavi has the highest amount of support among Iranians with a huge margin compared to anyone else. So every poll after poll after poll after poll, scientifically collected data always shows him ahead of everyone else. So what are you talking about? This is just Nayak propaganda?
Still, what support he does have, particularly in the Iranian diaspora, often emanates from opposition to the Islamic Republic and nostalgia for the monarchy that predated it. Yasmin and Santain.
Citations needed. Like, when I talk, I'm using it based on data. Where are you getting this from?
A British Iranian in her late 20s.
Oh, citations. Anecdotal evidence. That's what that citation is. Like, there's Yasmin just came out and here said, like, let's see what Yasmin is saying.
Yasmin and Santain, a British Iranian in her late 20s, said that members of her own family support Pahlavi for the symbolism of the pre-Islamic Republic era that he represents, as opposed to what he may actually stand for, adding that she believed that he lacked a clear political vision.
Bullshit. The Iranian, here's I make it simple. Okay, first of all, yes, it's some of it is nostalgia, some of it is the recognition that during the Pahlavis, Iran was growing in industry, in education, in healthcare, in culture, in the economy, in women's rights, in everything. Iran was growing, and then when the Pahlavi fell and the Islamic Republic came, everything went to shit. So a lot of Iranians are like, how about we just go back to the Pahlavi? Everything was working out. We went from the fastest growing power in the Middle East to all of a sudden one of the shittiest countries in the world. So how about we just go do a reset and we go back to Pahlavis? One reason is that, I mean, that's not just nostalgia. That's also, I don't know, logical reasoning. But there's also the recognition that Reza Pahlavi is standing for like a very clear political vision, actually, which is based on liberal values, secularism, uh, border integrity, and friendly relationship with countries around the world. And that's what the Iranian people want. The Iranian people want these four things, and Reza Pahlavi wants those four things. So it's pretty obvious. Let me actually remind you what these are again, because they're important. Okay, Iranian people want secularism. Even Muslim Iranians now want secularism. Many of them, or most of them, actually. They don't call it liberalism, but they also want liberal values, meaning human rights and freedom of speech. So these are the things that they want, and Reza Pahlavi advocates for that. They are very their border integrity is very, very important to Iranian people, and Reza Pahlavi wants to make sure that we maintain the border integrity of Iran. That's number 3. And number 4, they want to stop having a government that is hostile to the West, that is hostile to Israel, and is hostile to its neighbors. And that's what they want. They want these 4 things. And that's a very clear policy, and it's very simple. It's not very complicated. And it's not just that Reza Pahlavi is a Pahlavi and Iranian people have a good memory of the Pahlavis. It's not just that. It's also the fact that his very clear political vision is completely in line with what Iranian people want. That's the reason why they're supporting him. Okay, let's continue.
He really symbolizes.
Yes, Heavy Gretel saying all very reasonable things, exactly.
He really symbolizes what Iran was prior to the Islamic Republic. And that's what those who are asking for Reza Pahlavi want back, she told Al Jazeera. Her aunt, Yasna, 64, left Iran just months before the 1979 revolution to attend university in the United Kingdom. While she supports Pahlavi for the reasons her niece mentioned, she also believes Iran will no longer be a pariah to the West if he returned to rule Iran. He's somebody from my generation, and I have a clear memory of growing up in the days under the Shah. He's also so friendly with America, Europe, and Israel, and we need somebody like that, Yasna said. Analysts explained to Al Jazeera that the lack of a prominent alternative to Pahlavi, due to the Iranian government's crackdown on political opposition, was part of Pahlavi's appeal. They also pointed out that support for Pahlavi is tied to the distorted memory that some have of his grandfather, Reza Khan, and his father, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi.
Distorted memory? What distorted memory? Forget people's memory. Even every single study shows that Iran was doing its best during the 2 Pahlavi kings, Reza Shah and Mohammad Reza Shah. What do you mean distorted memory? I don't understand. Guys, what is it trying to say about distorted memory? People are not misremembering how great Iran was during the Pahlavi. Every single analysis of our economy, of our industry, of our everything actually shows that Iran, just go compare how Iran was before the Pahlavis during the Qajar dynasty, and then what it turned into during the Pahlavi dynasty. It's like night and day. We went from being like North Korea to South Korea before the Pahlavis and then during the Pahlavis. Yeah, the distorted memory, Heavy is saying the distorted memory of Iran being functional. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Heavy is saying Al Jazeera is wild. Like, they're not, it's so obvious how this is just propaganda.
Reza Khan was widely credited with creating an ethno-centralized state that curtailed the power of the religious clergy and violently cracked down on opponents.
Ethno-centralized? What do you mean ethno-centralized? Reza Shah was the person who changed the name of Iran from Persia to Iran, basically recognizing that Iran is more than just one ethnicity. Yeah, and also, why is it saying Reza Khan? It's Reza Shah. Why is he saying Reza Khan? Yeah, Amir saying really? Yes, yes. So Reza Shah before was the person who changed the name. I mean, the name of Iran was Iran inside Iran always, but he wanted to make sure that the foreigners, the official name, because Iranians refer to Iran as Iran, but foreign countries refer to Iran as Persia. And it was Reza Shah that was like, yeah, no, actually, our official name is Iran, and that's how it should be referred to. And he was the one who changed it internationally. So it's the opposite of being ethnocentric. Iran is more than Persia, and Reza Shah recognized that. What the hell, man? This is so the opposite of reality.
Reza Khan was widely credited with creating an ethno-centralized state that curtailed the power of the religious clergy and violently cracked down on opponents and minorities.
Violently crack down on opponents and minorities? You mean cessationist terrorists? You mean cessationist communist terrorists? He violently cracked down on people who were killing the Iranian people and were trying to tear Iran into pieces. Do you know, if it wasn't because if it wasn't for Reza Shah, there wouldn't be in Iran today. He wasn't cracking down on people who were like, oh, I have a different opinion. This is so unfair to Reza Shah, especially coming from Western countries, because Reza Shah was a saint compared to what Europe was going under during his time. Like when Reza Shah was in power, we had in the East, we had the Japanese and the Russians just killing their people in the millions. Like we had the most of the world was under freaking tyranny. We had the imperialist Japan, we had communist Russia, like the Soviet Union, and Europe was being being taken over by the Nazis, and we had tyranny and absolute brutality all around the world. And Reza Shah, compared to all of that, was an absolute saint compared to what was going on in the rest of the world. And the only people he was fighting against were the people who were trying to completely tear apart Iran. And if he wasn't doing what he was doing, there wouldn't be an Iran today. Like Iran was almost finished. Iran was almost ending when Reza Shah came into power, and he managed to hold the whole thing together. Violently cracking down, he was violently cracking down against the most violent of all people. Unbelievable. This fucking bullshit. I need to do a stream on Reza Shah at some point.
That repression continued under Mohammad Reza Pahlavi.
That repression? You mean basically law and order, trying to keep the country together. And also it continued under the Reza Pahlavi. Well, not enough apparently, because the revolution so successful. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was actually very, very gentle compared to his father, and some might argue too gentle, because he was trying to give more freedoms and more political freedoms to as many people as possible, and that's how the Islamists actually managed to basically spread their poison everywhere. What are you talking about? Like Muhammad Reza Shah, like I showed you in a previous stream, what how he was treating these communist terrorists. Like the guy, first of all, the accusations of torture, I showed you how false all of them were. And we even saw, like, there was a terrorist, Ziba Kalam, who was basically bringing arms and funding from foreign countries to Iran to do terrorist activities, and he got 3 years in prison. And I even showed you documentaries of what the prison conditions were like. So one man who was actually trying to kill Reza Pahlavi directly himself, like in prison, he was given the biggest room and room for painting. and another person that shot Reza Pahlavi directly, Reza Pahlavi forgave him and set him free. How is that? I mean, I think, God, it's like, it's not just the problem with this type of propaganda against the Pahlavis. It's not that they're just wrong, is that they couldn't be any more wrong. Like, it's not like, here's the truth and here's how they're misleading you. It's like, here's the truth, and what they're telling you is like 180 degrees the opposite. It's like it could, like, they couldn't make it more wrong if they tried. Asian Americans saying, my American ears saying law is equal to British tyranny. Okay. Well, thank you, Asian American. Thank you for being a member for 42 months. Holy shit. Let's continue.
However, Yasna speaks fondly of the Pahlavi family and hopes Reza Pahlavi can soon carve out his own legacy. Reza's grandfather brought security to the country, and his father helped us move forward. I now think Reza can unite us again, she said. Advertisement. Family history. The Pahlavis were not a dynasty with a long and storied past. Reza Khan was a military officer who seized power in the 1920s before being replaced by Mohammad Reza in 1941. Foreign powers had a role to play in that, as they did in 1953, when the
foreign powers came and forced Reza Pahlavi out, and the reason why he didn't fight back, because he didn't want the Iranians to die in the middle. So when they say like this is so dishonest, because Al Jazeera is trying to say like foreign powers had a role to play, as if to suggest that, oh, these were just foreign stooges, like basically puppets of these Western powers. No, they came in, and Reza Pahlavi recognized that compared to the force of the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom, Iran was not in a situation that it could push back against what they were forcing upon Iran. So instead of trying to remain in power because of his ego, he realized that if he wants to fight against these powers, that would basically devastate the Iranian people. So he just accepted their, he didn't. So there's there. A lot of people kind of sometimes suggest that Reza Pahlavi was weak here, or Mohammad Reza Shah was weak over there. But every time you point to their weaknesses, you realize that they chose between their ego and the Iranian people, and they always chose the life of the Iranian people over their own ego. That's what happened every time.
The US and the UK engineered a coup against Iran's then elected Prime Minister Mohammed.
What? The coup again? Oh, by the way, Kenny, thank you so much, Kenny, for the membership gifts. 5 membership gifts by Kenny. Thank for the people in the chat, guys. Memberships is one of the best ways to support this channel. So thank you. By the way, are they, guys? The anti-Pahlavis will always go to the 1953 so-called coup by the coup. I mean, it was a coup, but it was a coup d'etat by Mossadegh. Again, I'm going to do a live stream on this pretty soon, because this is their number one.
Foreign powers had a role to play in that, as they did in 1953, when the US and the UK engineered a coup against Iran's then elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, who had.
Okay, so this is let me just tell you why this is bullshit. Okay. US and the UK did not engineer a coup against Iran's against Mohammad Mossadegh. It was Mohammad Mossadegh that engineered a coup against the Shah, against Mohammad Reza Shah. The US, they came and helped the Shah to regain control over his country. So what Mohammad Mossadegh was doing was unconstitutional. Removal of Mossadegh was completely in line with the rights that the Shah had. So he had the legal authority to remove him. Mohammad Mossadegh did not have the right to basically dismantle the parliament, and he tried to do it. He tried to force the king, take the power away from the king, and that was illegal what he was trying to do. The king had all the legal right to remove him, but he wasn't able to, because Mohammad Mossadegh was using the power of the thugs in the streets to basically force his way upon the country. So yes, the United States came and helped the king to do what what he legally had the right to do. I will show you all of this in a live stream. Because given that removal of Muhammad Mossadegh was the legal right of the king according to the constitution, that means that technically that means that that was not a coup. Because I don't know if you last time you checked the definition of a coup has to be illegal. If you are legally, according to the laws of a country, removing a politician from their position, that by definition that is not a coup, right? And also, when he says the elected prime minister Muhammad Mossadegh, Muhammad Mossadegh was not directly elected by the people. He was elected by the members of parliament and then appointed by the Shah. And also, according to the constitution, the Shah could basically, the Shah who appointed him was allowed to also remove him. So this is all a lie, obviously.
Nationalize the assets of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company.
Okay, also Muhammad Mossadegh, people are like, oh, he wanted to nationalize the assets of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. First of all, there's two problems with that. Nationalize is the wrong word to use here because Muhammad Mossadegh said the oil of Iran belongs to all Muslims, not to Iranians. He said it belongs to all Muslims of the world, which, yeah, fuck that. Also, experts at the time suggested, because the oil of Iran's oil was being managed by BP, British Petroleum, and some, like, it sounds very nice, like, oh, this should be done by Iranian people themselves, blah blah blah, and it just sounds very powerful to say stuff like that. And it seems like, yeah, it should be, it's the oil of the Iranian people. It should be done. It should be completely under the control of the Iranian people. But the problem is that the infrastructure of Iran at that point was not in a place where it could have been effectively managed by the Iranian people themselves, and they were trying. Many people were trying to tell Mossadegh that, but he wouldn't listen. And actually, him trying to nationalize the assets of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company BP actually made Iran lose a lot of oil revenue for many years. So yeah, he was horrible. He was a threat to Iran, and the king was right to actually try to remove him. Also, another bad thing about him is that he was flirting with the communists.
Now known as BP. In April 1951, the British thought it was their oil, explained Asal Rad, a historian.
I mean, the British were kind of correct because the previous governments of Iran signed a deal with British Petroleum, which made that oil theirs. I mean, don't hate the players, hate the game. Like, what the British Petroleum came to Iran, they found oil, they signed a deal for this. We would get this much oil, and the deal was there. So we're like, oh, this is not your oil, this is our oil. I mean, you signed a deal. There's a contract. We have a contract. You want to renegotiate that contract? We could renegotiate the contract, but we have a contract. So people act like the British came and they just stole the oil, like they just came here and took it. They signed the contract. They got the oil in return of something else. I mean, you could be like, oh, now at the time that we signed the contract, we didn't realize how much how valuable this oil is going to be. So now we're unhappy with this contract. Okay, then renegotiate the freaking contract. Don't act like they came and stole it. They signed a contract with you. That's not stealing.
Historian of Iran and the author of State of Resistance, Politics, Identity, and Culture in Modern Iran. They had no recognition of the colonial past that allowed them to forcefully take the resource.
Forcefully? How did they forcefully take the resource? How is this colonial? The colonial means that we bring your army, we take your resources, and you have no say in it. The British in Iran, they didn't came and take the oil forcibly away. If you have a contract that you willingly signed, that is not colonialism. That is not forceful. That's basically mutual agreement. Do you know how contracts work? Who's talking here? This, I don't know.
Nor recognition of Iran's right to take the resource for itself, she told Al Jazeera.
I mean, they did recognize Iran's rights. That's why they asked their permission, and they got the permission. That's basically the recognition of their rights. Fucking these anti-imperialist idiots.
Jazeera.
I mean, they refer to themselves as anti-imperialist, but they actually pro-empire. They think that, like, oh, anti-colonial, anti-imperialism. You don't even know what these words mean.
Prior to the coup, Rad explained that the Shah was engaged in a power struggle with Mossadegh, who openly criticized the Shah for violating the constitution.
How did he violate the constitution? The Shah, give me a single example of where Mohammad Reza Shah violated the constitution.
The former wanted to maintain.
I mean, he was violating the constitution by trying to dismantle the parliament, the Majlis, and that was not within his legal authority. Mossadegh was violating the constitution. This is projection.
The former wanted to maintain his control, especially over the military, while the latter was trying to mold Iran into a constitutional democracy with popular support.
The former wanted to maintain his control, that he had according to the laws according to the constitution. He wanted to. The Shah wanted to look at the framing of this. It's like he wanted to maintain his control. Why is that? Like, they act like that is dictatorial to want to try to maintain your control. I mean, that's what every president, every prime minister, or any politician should want to do. If you have been given control according to the law, you should try to keep it. And say, especially over the military, like, why shouldn't he? He's been given the responsibility to manage the country with the control that he has over the military. Like, oh, we wanted to take your control away from the military. Like, oh, I'm going to resist that. Ah, dictator! How dare you try to resist losing the control over the military that the Constitution has given the right for you to control? Are these people even listening to themselves and say, like, they're acting like it's evil for the Shah to want to maintain his control over the military? How is that evil? How is that dictatorial? He's supposed to have the control over the military so that he could manage the country. And it's like, while the latter was trying to mold Iran into a constitutional democracy with popular support. I mean, look at how the framing of this. Because I could use the framing that you had for the Shah for Mossadegh, because Mossadegh was trying to take the control that the Shah had and get all that control for himself. That's because they're using the word control because the word control sounds negative. But that's what Mossadegh was trying to do. He was trying to gain control over everything, including, like, basically kick out the Shah so that he has all the control, while trying to mold Iran into a constitutional democracy. I mean, how are you being constitutional when you're violating the constitution by trying to get rid of the Shah illegally? Like, oh, I'm trying to mold Iran into a constitutional democracy by violating the constitution. Good job. Okay, this is so fucking biased. This is such a bullshit article.
The coup against Mossadegh was ultimately.
The coup was not against Mossadegh. Mossadegh was doing the coup.
The coup against Mossadegh.
What happened? What the Shah and the CIA did. They did an anti-coup. They basically they canceled the coup.
Was ultimately successful, leading to another 26 years of progressively more repressive Pahlavi rule.
How is it more repressive? Pahlavi gave Iran the women were given the right to vote ahead of many European countries. Reza Pahlavi was constantly trying to make Iran more democratic. It backfired every single time. So then he started investing just only in the education. Most of his focus on education, because he came to the conclusion that maybe before we get it turned into democracy, we need to educate the Iranian people. Shouldn't we say, explain Savak, Armin? Explain Savak. Savak was a great force of maintaining law and order. and I salute them. I love Savak. Savak are Savak was a great force that did a lot of service to Iran and the Iranian people, and it went unappreciated and it was demonized. And by the way, and it was also trained by Mossad. Savak was what was holding the country together. Yeah. By the way, guys, a lot of Israelis in the chat, this is deja vu, okay? Because you know how Israel is a force for good in the world, and it's fighting evil, and yet you could see how leftists and Islamists are trying to convince even other people who are also neither leftist or Islamist that Israel is evil, and there's the spread of hatred against Israel. They're sometimes very successful at it. The propaganda against Israel. So this is what was happening. Everything that is happening with Israel, these people, the leftists and Islamists, they were doing this with Pahlavi. So Pahlavi was a force for good, for progress, for technology, for prosperity, for peace, for freedom, for women's rights. Like it was a massive force of good, for good in the world. And the leftists and Islamists were just spreading lies and lies and propaganda against the Pahlavi until they managed to take it down. And now they're trying to use the same tactic against Israel. Oh, this is fucking bullshit. Sherwin, you're such a fucking liar. So Sherwin, by the way, these fucking idiots saying Reza Shah was forced out because he aligned himself with Hitler. So this is such a fucking bullshit lie. What Reza Shah was doing, first of all, during the World War II, Reza Shah was very clear that Iran is going to stay out of it, and they were very openly advertised to the whole world that they're going to take a neutral position, because Reza Shah was trying to keep Iran out of the war, because he didn't want to devastate this country by entering Iran into World War II. So they were trying very hard to signal to all sides that they're going to take a neutral position. So this is such a fucking bullshit lie that Reza Pahlavi aligned himself with Hitler. What they did was, because they were very reliant on British for some contracts from some industries, they, to balance that off, they also had to work with some German industries to make sure, because they had to have leverage. So Reza Shah didn't want to be completely, when it came to the war, they were completely neutral. He made it very clear that we're neutral, and this is official history. When it comes to industry, Reza Shah was wise enough to realize that they need to make sure that they both sided, because remember that the British, as you know, they were on the right side when it comes to the World War, but when it came to Iran, they had no sympathy to Iran or the Iranian people, and everything was being used as a tool for them to just win the war against the Nazis. And Reza Shah had to make sure that they have leverage when it comes to the World War II, and he wanted to make sure that he also is working with the Germans when it comes to industry, not just with the British or the Russians. So, which made absolute sense. And let me tell you how full of shit people like Sherwin are, because Reza Shah, when he was in power, Iran was a major source, for major place for Jewish refugees. So how much of a Nazi ally can you be when when Iran under your government is a refuge, is becoming a place for Jews to come and seek refuge from the Nazis? Yeah, so Amir is also recognizing this. saying yes, it's called the Children of Tehran. Yeah. In fact, not only that, Reza Shah made it very clear to the Germans who were coming into Iran for industrial work that the Jews of Iran are off limits. That because many Germans were coming into Iran and they were setting up shop there and they had their own radio and TV stations and stuff, Reza Shah made it very clear to these Nazis that hands off Iranian Jews. So yeah, very Nazi-ish of Reza Pahlavi protecting Iranian Jews like that. Don't let these fuckers bullshit you, sell these lies to you, okay? Maybe I should also do a live stream at some point. Yeah, I should do a live stream showing you all the heroic things Iranians did during World War II to save Jews. Especially this one guy from the Qajar dynasty that did such a heroic thing. There were many Iranian politicians even during World War II that did so many amazing things to save the Jews during World War II and bring them to Iran to save them. World War I and World War II, yeah. Let's continue.
According to a 1976 report by Amnesty International, the Shah's feared intelligence agency often beat.
Hey, hold on. Yeah.
Political prisoners with electric cables, sodomized them, and ripped off their finger and toenails to extract false confessions.
Citation evidence. I showed you guys the evidence in the previous stream that these are lies against Savak. Lies against Reza Pahlavi, to be more precise.
At the end of the day, the Shah's regime was a brutal dictatorship and non-democracy.
Bullshit. Bullshit. These are lies that Islamists and leftists keep spreading against Reza Pahlavi. It's all bullshit. I've already did a stream on that. Guys, make sure you go watch that. I show you how much Reza Pahlavi went out of his way to make sure that there's no torture. I mean, obviously he's not going to be completely successful, but he was absolutely against torture, physical torture, the way he words it, right? So, and maybe if you want to criticize him, maybe he left the room open for psychological torture, maybe. So you could criticize him for that if you want. But he was obsessed with trying to remove physical torture in Iran. So the live stream I did on that, let me see. Oh yeah, I did it 2 days ago on our channel. You could go watch it. It says Iran torture claims against Pahlavi are political tools of the regime. Make sure you go watch that because I bring evidence there.
Parsi told Al Jazeera. Economic inequality between the rich urban classes and the rural poor also grew under the Shah.
Yeah, because, okay, yeah, that's true. But because the country was growing so fast, this is the nature. So this is what they don't tell you. The economy was growing very, very fast. Usually when an economy grows very fast, the distance between the rich and poor also grows. So the Gini factor grows. But they don't tell you that, okay, yes, the inequality was increasing. They don't tell you that the economy was growing. So even though the distance between the richest and the poorest was increasing, the point is that the poorest were also growing. Maybe not as fast as how the rich were growing, but they were also growing. But this is the characteristic. This is what happens in a growing economy. The distance between the rich and poor increases. But at least, I mean, even if you think that's a bad thing, at least mention that this growing inequality was because of a growing economy. Like, are you going to mention how fast the economy was growing?
according to a 2019 Brookings Institute report by Javad Salehi Isfahani, an economist at Virginia Tech University. And yet, the Shah appeared detached from the plight of his own people throughout his reign.
The Shah was detached. The Shah, I mean, guys, I should do more documentaries on the Shah. The Shah was visiting people in their villages, going into freaking schools. Like, there's videos of this, there's reports of this. He would go, he would leave the comforts of his palace, he would go into little villages and go into random schools and watch teachers teach to their students to see how what the quality was. The Shah went into farms. The Shah basically, he ended feudalism. He was going in and he was, I mean, this is a part of the strategy maybe that I don't agree with because it's a bit socialist, but just to let you know how much with the people he was going to the farm, basically taking away the land from the farms from giant landowners and giving it to the farmers, right? Ending feudalism in Iran. I mean, that was the whole point of one of the main points of his white revolution. The Shah was obsessed with increasing education, knowing that was the main thing that was lacking that could basically lift up the entire country. I mean, how out of touch with the Iranian people could have he been when everything he did was basically growing the country? Like, he must have been doing something right.
Rad referenced a lavish party.
I mean, it's good that we have video evidence of all of this. Like, there is video after video, Shah and his wife, like, they will constantly be everywhere. Like, the queen would go into villages and she would go there and she would bake breads with people. Like, she would do the chores that they were doing. She would actually get involved and do it with them because they wanted to be with the people. You know, there was a time that I don't know, I think it was in Afghanistan. There was a war and refugees were coming in from Afghanistan to Iran, and the king and the queen, they went into the border to welcome these refugees. Like, they went into the border, like, to meet them. It's crazy.
That the Shah threw in 1971 to celebrate 2,500 years of the Persian Empire.
Oh yeah, so that there's this we call this the 2,500 celebration, the celebrations of 2,500. That's what they referred to. Okay, and a lot of people are like, oh, look how Shah was out of touch. Look at this, because they had a luxurious party. The luxurious party was put because many leftists use these celebrations as a way to criticize the Shah as out of touch with the Iranian people. So let me actually let her explain. Al Jazeera article explain this, and I will respond.
Brad referenced a lavish party that the Shah threw in 1971 to celebrate 2,500 years of the Persian Empire. The luxurious party brought together foreign dignitaries from across the world, even as many Iranians struggled to make ends meet, highlighting the country's economic disparities.
So many leftists criticize the Shah for having those luxurious parties. So those luxurious parties, that celebration was basically put Iran on the map. Put Iran on the map when it comes to tourism and investment. A lot of foreigners realized, like, holy shit, we didn't know Iran had advanced this much. Like, it made Iran be noticed by foreigners as a cultural center, as this developing country with a very rich culture. And you're like, oh, they shouldn't have done that because some people are poor. Well, this is how you get a country out of poverty, by signaling to the whole world that, yeah, look at our culture. We're growing. Like, it's basically like, based on this standard, any country that has any celebrations, you should go criticize them. Like, oh, why are you spending money on those celebrations while you have some poor people there? This is such a leftist mindset, such a communist mindset. Like, oh, you shouldn't have lavish parties because you have poor people. Well, one way to get rid of poverty is by doing celebrations that puts you on the map and gets you noticed and brings in tourism and investments into your country, which it did. Actually, it did do that job. It was mission accomplished. It did such a great job because Mohammad Reza Shah was obsessed with cultural exchange, basically showing to the world how rich the Iranian culture is, but also showing to the Iranian people how rich other countries' culture are. That's what I love about Mohammad Reza Shah. He loved Iranian culture and he wanted to brag to the whole world to come and recognize how rich the Iranian culture is. But he also celebrated other countries' cultures, and he wanted Iranian people to be familiar with other countries' culture. You know, my grandfather and my grandmother, earlier they worked for BP. My grandfather used to work for BP, but when the BP went away and Iran's oil became nationalized, and my grandfather went, the job that he had after that was for the cultural center of the country of Mohammad Reza Shah. And part of the job that my grandpa used to be involved in Iran, and my grandmother was involved in Iran, was bringing in, it was an exchange program to bring Iranian students to go live in a house of American or a French person or a German, and live in their house and stay in France or German or United States for a while and basically get familiar with the culture there, but also bring people from there. Like, there were these students that would come and live in Iran, like a French student or an American student. They would do an exchange. They would come and live in a house of an Iranian and just live there for a while, so that they also become familiar with what Iran is like, and then they would go back. So that was like one of the many programs that they had, right? Which is, you know, there were so many programs back then that was making Iran better, but everything was lost because of the Islamic Republic. So let's see what else this bullshit article.
He was celebrating Iran with nothing Iranian and no Iranians invited nor involved. And he even had student protesters.
No, the Iranians were involved. The Iranian officials were involved. The point of that party, those celebrations, was to get foreigners to come and notice Iran. Like, what? That was the point of the celebration.
Arrested beforehand because he didn't want incidents to occur while he was doing this.
Yeah, but by the way, when you say student protesters, what they actually mean is communist terrorists. Every time during the Shah's time, when they talk about student protesters, what they're actually talking about are armed communist terrorists. That's what they were trying to do. And I'm not making this up. That's what they did. That's what their protests were look like.
Rad said. The party was one of these monumental.
Like, I'm sorry, like this very extreme violent communists that everywhere they go, they keep bombing a place or they want to kill somebody. I'm sorry that we're not allowing them around these foreign dignitaries that we're having here, trying to that we're trying to sell Iran's culture to. Like, oh wow, yeah, we're trying. Sorry for not letting them in. Okay.
The party was one of these monumental moments that led to the disconnect between him and his own people, coupled with
between the freaking because at that point the people were being poisoned with Islamist and communist ideas, and when they saw a lavish party, they're like, oh, this is because, again, they had the mindset that an economy of the country is like a pie, that if you take some of it, there will be less left for other people. They don't understand that the economy is not like that. It's not like a limited amount of wealth that if somebody takes some of it, other people. That's a communist way of looking at the world. If you actually understand how the economy actually works, you realize that it's a growing pie. This is actually how you generate wealth.
State repression and rising poverty, the Persian Empire celebration was one of the factors that eventually led to the 1979 revolution.
Yeah, that's actually true. The leftists use those celebrations as a way to keep showing, like, oh look, they have lavish parties. That must mean that they're evil. By the way, this is how leftists always look at the world, right? They think like if you are powerful or you're rich, you must be the evil one in the story, and if you're poor and you're weak, you must be the guy in the story, right? So, I mean, if you're poor and if you're weak, you might be Hamas, but I don't like you might be you're doing terrorist activities, but we don't see the world like that. We see the world like rich and powerful bad, poor and weak good. So even if you're a freaking terrorist organization that it does the most vile evil things, doesn't matter. You're poor, you're weak, you're the good guy of the story. And that's what that was what the mindset some leftist Iranian people had. So when they saw like, oh, lavish party, you must be evil. That's how they looked at it. Things.
Reza Pahlavi was in the US when the revolution erupted, training to be a fighter pilot. He was just 17 years old and has never returned.
Yeah, Reza Pahlavi. Now this is the one. This is the guy. This is the crown prince. The guy that we want now to come back and lead the country. Okay, and he as a like. By the way, thank you for mentioning that. So he was a prince. He was 17 years old, and he was training to be a fighter pilot. So even Reza Pahlavi, the guy who is now the exiled crown prince of Iran, that now we're supporting, that shows that he wasn't like this spoiled little prince that was just sitting in the palace and just wanted to go and just have fun and do parties or just live a lavish life. Even at 17, he wanted to be trained on how to defend his country. That's the kind of person like that. That's how what he was like at 17.
He was just 17 years old and has never returned to Iran since. Instead, a life in exile began, with the ultimate goal always remaining a return to his home country and power. Advertisement.
Power.
As the eldest of the Shah's.
Look how they want to ruin this beautiful thing. He always wanted to return back to his home country. Like that is too beautiful to just let there. And power. Like they want to like because these people see power, people holding power as a negative thing. They just want to make it sound dictatorial. And by the way, Reza Pahlavi is actually obsessed with telling people that he doesn't have any power and the power comes from the people. So he doesn't want power. He wants to reflect the power of the people, whenever they see, whatever they choose. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Power. Yeah, evil. Whoa, wow.
As the eldest of the Shah's two sons, loyalists to the monarchy recognized Reza Pahlavi as heir apparent after his father passed away from cancer in 1980. He has since spent the majority of his life in the US, mostly in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Initially focused on restoring the monarchy, Pahlavi has shifted his rhetoric in the last 2 decades to focus more on the idea of a secular democracy in Iran. He has said he does not seek power and would only assume the throne if asked to do so by the Iranian people.
Yeah, he actually has always said that. He hasn't changed his narrative on that. He has always said, even from the beginning, he has said that he wants whatever the Iranian people decide for, whatever the Iranian choose, that's what he wants for them.
Opposition outreach. Pahlavi's attempt to broaden his appeal came as he also reached out to other opponents.
So here, let me tell you how wrong this is. Pahlavi's attempt to broaden his appeal. Actually, Reza Pahlavi doesn't actually try to broaden his appeal. In fact, he does the opposite. He always assumes that he doesn't have an appeal, and he goes, he's usually forced, but he's pressured to come out. So he always downplays, like if you listen to him, he always downplays his appeal. He always says like people come and beg him to come in and do this and say this and be more present and show more willingness to lead the people. And he always acts like, well, I need to hear it from the people. I need to hear a louder voice. I need to see more people really wanting them. Like, how can I be sure that this is what the Iranian people want? And people keep convincing him, like, listen, no, they want. We know it. You have this much support. People are begging you to do it. Like, yeah, I don't know. And he always he always comes to a position of leadership, kicking and screaming. Like he he has always shown resistance to actually being a leader, but because he's so popular, he always seems to be forced to the leadership position. Like he seems to be allergic to it. He's like, hey, I could serve the Iranian people as an activist, but as an advocate from the sidelines, I could do something else. And people keep telling like, no, we want you to be a leader. And then he seems to always wanting to resist that, and then eventually he always has to submit, because he always promised to submit to the will of the Iranian people. So I don't know where you're getting Pahlavi's attempt to broaden his appeal. Pahlavi's appeal has been broadened without him attempting it. The reason why Pahlavi became more and more popular is, one, because the Islamic Republic keeps getting more and more unpopular, and Iranian people, especially the new generation, it keeps getting desperate for an alternative, and they went back and looked at their history and realized that how everything. So the Reza Pahlavi is right now most popular among young Iranians, the youngest Iranians, the Iranians who actually never even experienced the Pahlavis, the first two Pahlavis, because they're just so desperate and just so upset with the Islamic Republic. And then when they go and look at documentaries of how Iran used to be, they were like, what the fuck? This is how we were like? Why can't we go back to that? And this has happened with no work from like Reza Pahlavi has not been advertising himself to young Iranians. The young Iranians have just went and discovered how great Iran was under the Pahlavi themselves. So I don't know what attempt you're like. When you say Pahlavi's attempt, show me that attempt. Show me where Pahlavi comes like, hey, Iranian people, come to me. I am your leader. He never does that. In fact, a lot of people get frustrated with him that he doesn't do that. He does the opposite. He's like, people go to him like, hey, the Iranian people want you. And you're like, oh, do they? Do they really? Like, can you guys show me something? How do we know? Like, can we have a camp? Like, yes, they do. Like, oh, okay. That's how it actually. That's more like him. Like they don't know. Like whoever wrote this article, they have no. It's obviously just a propaganda piece. Like they're like obviously. Like I'm familiar with Reza Pahlavi. I follow him. I listen to his speeches. I've seen his history. Like it's so obvious. Whoever wrote this just had some bad intentions against Pahlavi, and they had no clue about this man. They're not familiar with the man.
Of the Iranian government. Some have
Yeah, exactly. Amir saying it's a clumsy propaganda piece. Like it shows like a complete lack of familiarity with the man.
Some have outright refused to work with him, citing his royal background. And others who have worked with him have quickly
his royal background, that he at some points, like he himself has said that my royal background should not be advantage. Like he has said that he has sometimes let me tell you something that most people will not tell you. We have leaked audio messages from Reza Pahlavi, and I kid you not, leaked audio messages of Reza Pahlavi speaking against the monarchy, suggesting that Reza Pahlavi himself sometimes preferred a republic without a monarch. I mean, actually, let me actually be more clear. That part he has been actually saying it publicly. The part that was leaked was the part where he was telling the monarchists that you are not respecting my rights as a human being. What if I don't want to be a king? Like, why are you trying to make it seem like me being the king is the only option? And so the way he talks publicly is that, it both could be option. We could have a monarchy and we could have a republic without a monarchy. Either one is okay. And it's up to the Iranian people. But sometimes he doesn't say that anymore. He doesn't say it anymore because he noticed so many Iranians want a monarchy. But he used to hint that his own preference is not a monarchy. His own preference. That he actually might prefer, which is actually very much like Reza Shah before him, because Reza Shah, when he came into power, he wanted to turn Iran into a republic without a monarch, but then he was convinced that no, actually turn Iran into a monarchy. So him, like his grandfather, seemed to actually prefer an Iran without a monarch, but then he was convinced by the Iranian people that no, we want a monarchy. No, Amir saying, didn't he said that he wanted a constitutional monarchy? No, he had two different points. One hints that he actually prefers a republic that doesn't have a monarch, but more than that, he focuses on it's up to the Iranian people. Reza Pahlavi himself does not come and say, I mean, he did say that when he was younger, because he had sworn as a young kid to basically continue the monarchy, but that's when he was a kid. Like he was a teenager when he said that. But during his political, activism, during his leadership of this revolution, he has either shown some hints that he himself might actually prefer more of a Iran without a monarch, but more recently he has just said, like, you know what, it doesn't matter, Iranian people will choose in the referendum. But he hasn't been supporting a monarchy. He has supported Iranians' choice. That's what he supports. He supports Iranians' choice of the form of their government, whether that's a monarchy or not a monarchy. He just says it's going to be. It comes down to a referendum. That's what he says. I mean, many of his supporters prefer a monarchy, but he himself says it's going to be a referendum. We're going to decide it like that. But let me see. We got a super chat. We got two super chats. Shana saying, also, inequality is not a bad thing. It's about opportunity and access to resources that people care about. Yes, inequality is not a bad thing as long as the poor are getting richer. As long as the poor are getting richer, I don't care that the rich are getting richer faster. My key, I just want to see the poor getting richer. If the rich are getting rich faster, so be it. Okay? Inequality is a problem if the cause of the inequality is that the poor is getting poorer. That's an inequality that I do not like. But if everybody is getting richer, who cares that there's more inequality? I mean, technically, actually, if I want to be nitpicky, even if everybody is getting richer, if inequality gets too much, people will compare themselves and they will get so dissatisfied that they might revolt. So inequality does matter in that sense. Even if everyone is getting richer, they're not going to be happy when they see how different people are. So we have to take that into account. That's just how the human brain works, and we cannot change that. And Jewish Samantha saying, if Israel if Israel won't end Khamenei, then who should Israel? Wait, how does this? What does this look like on the YouTube? Because we don't see the emojis here. Oh, okay. If Israel won't end Khamenei, then who should Israel end next? I mean, there's still. So how? I think Israel took around 20 of the heads of IRGC. I think there's around 40 left. We have another 40 heads of IRGC. So the list is very long. And that doesn't even include the politicians that they need to take out. So, for example, one politician I would like them to take out would be Ejei, right? But yeah, we have 40 commanders of IRGC that are still alive. So they could go after them. All right, let's continue with this. Actually, should I continue with this? I think this live stream is going for too long.
Distance themselves. One of the most important examples of this was the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom in Iran, formed in 2023. in the wake of anti-government protests that began the previous year.
I think we get this in this whole point. And this is just a propaganda piece. I'm done with it. I'm getting bored with it. Yep. So, what do you guys think? Should I respond to more propaganda pieces like this? I mean, it gives me an idea. I think I should next stream. How about this? The next stream, I'm just going to focus on the Mossadegh lie, because everybody's that's the main lie that these anti-Pahlavi people go to: anti-American, anti-Israeli, By the way, guys, what our enemies help us is to recognize how united we should be, right? Because anti-Westerners are also anti-Israeli, which shows how important the bond between Israel and the West should be, right? And also anti-Israelis are also anti-Pahlavi. So this is a major clue to Israelis that Pahlavi is your friend, that you need to support the Pahlavis, right? Oh yeah, okay. Heavy Critical saying, yes, please add context to the coup narrative. I want to know more about the Mossadegh. Yes, we need to do Mossadegh. Wait, so Daniel is saying, stop being lame and gay. I mean, I'm very happy. Okay. What? Are you talking to me? Oh, FLP is saying, yes, I agree with Heavy Griddle. I mean, you're saying Iranian history is very interesting. Yes. And you know, the interesting parts of Iranian history is the parts that there's some connection to Israel. One of the most, you know what? One of the most interesting parts of Iran's history is that Iranian guy, I forgot his name, part of the Pahlavi's government that went and was during World War II. He was trying to save Iranian Jews to bring them to Iran, to give them refuge. And at some point, he saved every single Iranian Jew that he could find. So he started focusing on other Jews, okay, non-Iranian Jews, to bring them to Iran to save them from the Nazis. I should do a live stream on that. Do you guys want to do that? That's a very interesting part of the Iranian history that many Israelis are not familiar with. Have you guys heard this in Israel? It's a very important part of Iran's history that I need to actually remind myself more about the details, because it's such a beautiful. Because the guy, I think it was in French embassy, or I don't. Yeah, it was, the guy was in ambassador of Iran in France, I think, if I remember correctly, and he had so many empty passports. So he was finding the Jews, Iranian Jews, and just basically using all these empty passports to basically give them to basically fill them with their identity, so to get all the Jews out of France to Iran to save them from the Nazis. And then once he was done, he had still so many passports on his hands, and all the Iranian Jews he could find, he managed to save them. And then he went and started basically using the same passports to find other Jews. And so after the whole war ended, I think they did an interview with him, and they asked him, why did you basically risk so much? Why did you do everything to try to get these Jews to Iran? And he was like, because they're Iranian. Because, like, I think because they're Iranian, I was trying to save my countrymen. And they're like, okay, but then why did you continue after with these other Jews who are not Iranian? And he said, because they were human. They were my fellow human beings. Yeah. So yeah, I should do a live stream celebrating that guy, because that's a beautiful story. Okay, so I'm gonna head out. Guys, make sure you like the stream. Please recommend this channel. Please like the stream. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell notification, and please suggest this channel, Atheist Republic, to everybody. Okay, word of mouth is a very good way to. Hey, Bardo is here. Hi, Bardo. It's a very powerful way of growing this channel. Okay, so please go ahead and do that. I would really, really appreciate that. Okay. What a channel! Yes, it's a great channel. Okay, guys, I'm gonna head out. Love you guys. I'm Israel Kai, Javid Shah. Mwah. Till next stream.